Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania came out, and we're going to talk about it. Welcome, everyone, to your regularly scheduled episode of Couch Theater. We are back just 2 weeks from the last time we uploaded. As usual, nothing has changed. If you think so, you're wrong and you should get your mind checked. I am your humble host, Raphael, and with me, as always, is my humble co-host,
Samuel Chan. What better movie for us to resell ourselves than, the first movie of the fifth phase of Marvel?
I have been waiting for this movie for so long. I've been super excited. Ever since they posted just the breakdown of what the phase will be, I knew that this was going to be the movie I wanted to see, and I'm super glad that I got to see it. How about you?
Liar, pants on fire.
Yeah, so this was the movie. So we're going to do, what's about non-spoiler thoughts, right?
Yes. Phase 1 of our podcast will be non-spoiler thoughts for those who don't want to be told too much about it and want just to, the little bits and bits about
What's going to be phase 7 of our podcast?
Yeah, I haven't gotten that far,
okay.
Much like Marvel. So, Raph, what did you think?
Well, I thought that this was certainly a movie. I think that I'll give it some praise. I think that it met the runtime that it was trying to meet. It paid its actors, I assume, and just overall was a movie. It did be a movie pretty good.
I'm pretty sure you're just stealing YouTube comments on how Morbius performed at this point.
Yeah, I really loved it when Scott Lang jumped in and said it's morbing time. Scene.
It is a movie of all time.
It is a movie of all time, for sure. There's one of the movies of all time. There was acting involved. No, for real, I really did not enjoy this movie. I thought the first 10 minutes as not having a ton of fun, and then I had to mentally, step back and be like, this is a Marvel movie. There's superheroes, you're a word fight. Like, I cannot take this as seriously. And so I relaxed myself and I was like, just look at it with fresh eyes. We're all just having fun here. And with those eyes, I thought this was a pretty bland movie. But at least I was not actively annoyed the entire time.
Yeah. I thought you were asleep at one point in the theater. And I wasn't surprised because I think half an hour in, I couldn't help but think, for all the money they've put into this, all the CGI and all the little world building that they've done, it is so dreadfully, dreadfully boring.
I rarely ever say that the effects look bad because we've gotten to a point in the production of these movies, especially since they've done so many, that there's just a bar for production quality that they're not going to fall under. So, does the movie look good compared to most movies? Yes. Was I at any point like, oh my god, that was a cool visual effect? Like, the entire quantum realm does it look bad? Not in any, way I can point out, but it looks very uninspired, right? I'm not seeing any visual about this that makes me think, wow, they're in a weird, cool realm. I just think we're in a place. My general thoughts of this movie is, the movie was very uninspired, and I can say that about basically every part of the movie. Except for the main bad guy, who I thought was a little bit inspired.
We'll talk more about the world building later because we'll probably have to spoil a bit.
Yeah.
But it's so sad to see so much money put into making it look visually stunning when it's not stunning at all. Because I don't know, I was watching a clip from Zack Snyder's Man of Steel recently, and I couldn't help but think, say what you will about the director, he's not maybe a writer, but man, is he a visual artist. It's beautiful the way Krypton is getting blown up. It's beautiful. And if you go on, Deviant Art or something, you see there's all these kind of people who have these really cool visions of what space could look like or what some certain fantastical land could look like. And then, $100 billion or so is put into this movie, and you're just given I guess this is the quantum realm.
Did you just say $100 billion? I don't think this movie costs $100 billion.
Sorry, that was reserved for my financial podcast later.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to talk about SVB.
I guess we should give probably a summary of the movie.
I guess.
Scott Lang is Scott Lang, and he's Ant Manning, and he's got a daughter and a wife who are also creature manning, wasping, or insecting in other ways. And they have weird technology with pimp stuff, and oh no, something went wrong. And now they're in the quantum realm, dealing with wacky hijinks, and potentially an evil man from the past.
I have nothing to add there. One non-spoiler talk.
Yeah.
They changed the actress, the daughter, Cassie.
They do that all the time. To be fair, balanced, honest, and transparent, have not seen the second Ant-Man movie.
But you have seen Endgame.
Yes.
She's in Endgame.
And I can tell you 100% that I don't even remember the character.
She's an adult and she hugs her dad when she finds out he didn't die.
I believe you 100%.
I don't know why they chose a different actress. I'm guessing they needed somebody with a little more spunk because Marvel always needs a little spunk in their characters these days.
I mean, characters with spunk are good. I'm not going to complain about that.
I'm so tired of Marvel spunk.
Marvel spunk? What do you mean by Marvel spunk?
Every character needs to have a level of sass.
You mean like the quippy one-liners that they're all doing? Yeah,
but it's still very tame sass, but like every character needs it. And
when you say tame sass, what do you mean?
It's spunk, but it's not really spunk. No, that's wrong. You can have a family-friendly spunk. Oh, it's fun. Incredible. Sorry.
I don't know why you're laughing, but I'm just keeping a spunk counter up, and I just want to know how many times you're going to say that word.
That is exactly why I'm laughing.
Okay.
I don't know how to explain it, except that, yes, you can have, like, a little bit of sass, you can have a little bit of quirky and whippy kind of attitude and stuff. But, like, Marvel just keeps doing it again and again and again in every movie, and they have to do it with every side character. And it's just, I'm done with it. You can have a sweet character.
You're saying that the characters feel a bit samey?
It's like Iron Man was he was the
template for which all their superheroes were made?
Yes.
Almost like they had a successful product and thought, how about we just keep doing that?
Yes.
That's a little bit unfair to them. I mean, their characters are different, but I do. When they're playing off each other, you can see the differences more. But when Captain America and Iron Man are in the room talking to each other, they feel like different characters with different goals and motivations and stuff. When they're in their separate movies, they do feel very samey because Captain America is running around quipping with everyone, yelling catchphrases and just being a fun-loving guy. When he's in Civil War or any Avengers movie, he's not that person. He's a more serious character. I mean, for me, it's not a problem inherently because if they kept doing it well, I would keep enjoying it. I just think they're not doing it as well as they used to. Like, you want witty characters. You don't want your characters to be, like, just boring and unexciting. I mean, this is a superhero movie we're watching. But you want their wit to show in, like, unique ways, to, like, emphasize core parts of the character. But they all feel like they were written, perhaps, by a similar group of people.
Yeah. Let's move on to the rating section.
What would you rate this movie?
I would rate it better than Thor: Love and Thunder. And I would put it below pretty much every other Marvel movie. I don't know.
I would give this movie, I'll give it a Ladybug out of 10.
I feel offended.
On the behalf of Ladybugs.
Yes.
I said it and then I thought about it and I do agree with you. I was, on behalf of myself and Couch Theater Productions, I do apologize for all Ladybugs who felt offended by that statement. This movie is a moth out of 10. Because moths are kind of annoying. But, like, when was the last time you really thought about moths in your clothes or anything like that? Moths are theoretically annoying, but I don't care about moths.
They're kind of related to butterflies, but they're a shadow of what the butterfly is.
Very poetic. A butterfly is like a little bit beautiful or something like that. Ladybugs, they're kind of cool. Cockroaches and stuff, they're like irritating and very annoying. But like a moth is just like, you could do better. That's how I feel about
this.
What
I definitely won't rate it is an ant, because ants are way too intelligent and structured.
Yeah, I was thinking of calling it a bee, but bees are industrious little fellas. This movie is not a bee. No, sir.
If anything, though, it is, I guess, maybe closer to the Bee Movie.
The Bee Movie was a piece of art. That movie was inspired. I remember watching that movie when I was younger and thinking, this is a fun movie I kind of enjoy. I enjoyed his antics. And then I remember watching that movie again when I was older and thinking, this woman won that bee. And that is very strange. And it is very strange that a bunch of people wrote that into this movie and kept it there. Am I wrong? Am I the only one seeing that? Is that not there?
I would now like to move to phase 3 of our podcast. Spoiler talk. Warning, we don't really have much good to say, so just get ready for just...
a bunch of ranting. We'll try and keep it short and brief, as this movie should have kept itself.
Let's talk a little bit about world building. We've talked about world building in the past. Why do you think it was so boring? Like this new entire quantum realm.
Two things. One is the visual story. I think it was extremely uninspired. The look of it, like what was distinct about the quantum realm, and how does that differ from our regular reality? I genuinely couldn't tell you. It just looks like they were in a dimly lit space, which is not what you want. I want this to look like I am in a crazy world. And it didn't look like that. And, maybe they didn't have time, whatever. I don't know or particularly care too much what the reasons are, but it just didn't look like that to me. And then also, I like being able to make sense of what is happening. Like, I want my worlds and magic and all these things to have like some internal consistency with themselves that you can work out and figure out. And I feel like this was lacking that in some sense. And maybe I just don't know enough about Ant-Man verse, but I was like, what is the quantum realm? Are we talking about him just shrinking to the point where like he's as small as like a quirk? Okay. And there are other worlds there? Okay. That's very strange, but I can get behind that. But then they all get teleported in that, and I'm like, how does he use his powers? Like, how is he still shrinking? How does this make any sense? And when he expands, why is he not just stepping back into the real world? So like, it feels like what the movie's telling me is that the quantum realm is just when you shrink down a lot. But what the entire story is telling me is the quantum realm is actually just a separate dimension. And I'm like, well, which is it? There's a little bit of that and just kind of annoying. So I just felt like it was a very lackluster setting they created for me.
I feel like it was neither a magical place or a new sci-fi kind of place. Mm-hmm. So like if you want to make an intriguing sci-fi world, you have to have certain ground rules that make you intrigued into knowing how does it play out? How do the laws of that nature there play out based off of what you've given me? The second option, I think, is to have a more magical feeling where it's not necessarily important about how it all works out, but there's this artistic side that's brought out that you find in Spirited Away or these other ones.
Lots of Ghibli movies.
Yeah, Studio Ghibli movies where there's this fantastical element that just makes you go in awe, right? And you're not trying to understand. It neither has the awe or the scientific intrigue of how it works, right? So it's just a bland mesh of both. We speculated that part of the reason the world building sucks is because they don't even know what they're building.
Did I say that? What? That's just mean-spirited. I would never say something that mean-spirited. I would be shocked if I were to step into the writer's room for these movies, I would be shocked if there was actually a clear vision of what the quantum realm was. I would be shocked. That's all I'm saying. And if there was one, I would be even more shocked.
There is no win-win situation.
Listen, I'm not like knocking anyone. There are people working really hard doing their jobs, and I'm like kind of smack talking them, but at the same time, art can be criticized, and I think they did an extremely poor job.
I think there are naturally contrived points of the plot as well that make it fairly boring because you immediately recognize it as a trope.
Yeah, like tropes played extremely straight and in a not very non-interesting way.
Like the mystery of her past in the quantum realm. Time after time, for the first half an hour, they're like doing everything they can to make sure that she doesn't reveal what happened when they're just walking. Y'all just strolling down this quantum realm,
you could talk.
Weird fungus. You have time.
And I'm going to sound like the worst kind of hypocrite by saying this, but the miscommunication trope, I hate it. I sound like a hypocrite because I always say I love The Wheel of Time, and that book, those series of books, boy, if anyone communicated in those books, there would not be 14 books, there would be like 2 books. But as with any trope, it's always about execution. In my personal assessment, the way The Wheel of Time does miscommunication, while it is sometimes annoying, it does make sense, and I enjoy it. The way this movie is doing miscommunication is the kind of miscommunication I hate, where people are just not saying anything for no good reason. It's not like she has a bad relationship with her family. She has seemingly a good relationship with them and loves and cares for these people, and they are dealing with things that she has knowledge about. She could definitely inform them about because the things they're dealing with are in some way dangerous. And she's refusing to communicate this. And some of that is she's apparently a little bit traumatized about, what happened there. She doesn't really want to talk about it. But I don't know. Maybe I'm being dismissive of trauma, but like I think that's a little bit ridiculous. When like this is like what your husband does. This is what your son does. This is what your daughter does. This is what your granddaughter does. Like this is what your entire family does. So at some point you have to communicate with them, and that communication cannot just be stop it, don't do it. It's too dangerous. You don't know what you're doing, because that when has that ever stopped any human being from experimenting? So I just find that kind of miscommunication very irritating because I'm just like, you can just communicate.
There are so many ways to cover miscommunication in elegant ways. It's like a person has a hard time communicating because they believe well, if you show it in the world, in the story, that they have a hard time communicating with people, that's an easy way. Or like they really don't believe that the communication will work this time because they've tried it in the past, and you've seen them try communicating with somebody in the past and it doesn't work out, so they don't believe in the power of communication, whatever you want to call that. There are so many different beautiful ways. Marriage Story is one that covers the... Have you seen The Marriage Story?
Nope.
It covers miscommunication pretty well, because it covers the ways and the opportunities they had to communicate with each other, but how the staleness, the lack of love, the lack of effort brought out just the more negative tones in their interactions, which eventually over time culminates in an explosion of just negative emotion. Right. There's so many ways to cover it. Using it as a contrived way to just not reveal the plot is always just... It's very painful to watch at this point. Yeah, I guess I'll try and like segue the things I've learned about into large categories so we can get through them quickly. Right. So I thought that this movie did a very, again, uninspired job of making me care about the main conflict and the characters and their role in that conflict. So I was not invested in any of this. I like Scott Lang as Ant-Man, generally speaking, but I'm not, I don't know, this movie did not make me feel anything about what he was doing. So him and his daughter, who I didn't know about until I started watching this movie and thus felt no emotions towards, they're in this situation and they have this fraught relationship that I'm supposed to care about. And this whole journey should thematically be them resolving their relationship and going closer. And Janet's going through this whole thing where she's dealing with demons of the past, and I don't care. And Hope she's honestly kind of just there. She's not doing a lot in this movie. And Hank is also just there. He's just the weird ant guy. I don't know when he became the weird ant guy, but now he's the weird ant guy. What did you think of the tribe?
Oh man, the tribe was just annoying because like they showed up and captured them and were like yelling random sounds that we don't know what they're talking about, and it's supposed to evoke this like, oh, this is very brutal tribal people who are potentially barbaric, and who knows what they're going to do to you in this weird ritual that they're dragging you towards. And just they're probably trying to get to communicate with you, and whatever it is they're saying is probably a very normal thing. Lo and behold, 5 minutes later, it was that. Everything about it was boring. The outcome was boring. I expected the outcome, which makes it even more boring. It was just boring. It feels like they chose the most boring option at every turn.
Yeah, to me it just felt like another trope of that, that small village. The bad guy needs, it creates friction. It creates the bad guy being a bad guy, because without this tribe, you don't really see the evil of Jonathan.
Who is he oppressing if there's no one here, kind of thing?
Yeah, but that was legit all I felt from that tribe.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like it's there to it exists for Kang and nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, I can mechanically understand the reasons that this was written in, but I don't feel anything, and thus it is a waste of screen time always. Also, that reminded me of one of the biggest issues I had with this movie, and that was that, like, shot to shot, scene to scene, some of the things that were happening were very incongruent. Like, I could see weird editing choices being made. So, the situation with the tribe, they get captured, we cut to a different scene, we come back, now he's being dragged into the tribe people, but his daughter's already there, and she's yelling at him, "Oh yeah, drink the ooze," and I'm thinking, how long has she been here? How far were they? Why were they separated? This doesn't make any sense. The one that was really funny was when Kang finally gets to Janet and they walk through the portal, and then like the very next scene we see them, he's like sitting in his throne room and someone's bringing Janet to him, to which I have to respond, what did he do in the meantime? Like, did he have a Zoom call he had to go catch? Like, what happened when he walked through that portal that he had to separate from her and have someone else bring it to, like, stuff like that, where I was just like, again, it's not a big deal, right? Whatever, who cares? It's supposed to be a cool scene that he's sitting on this throne and she's walking in. But the fact that I'm noticing this, not like on a rewatch where I'm trying to break things out, I'm just noticing it as the movie is playing out. It's telling me that this movie is failing on so many levels.
Well, that's what it comes back to me, where I just feel like there's a lot of boring tropes in this. Like, the whole thing with the scene with Kang, you're saying like, oh yeah, the bad guy menacingly sitting on his throne. It's like, that's another trope,
Yeah.
right? And like there wasn't any natural transition to it. They just threw that in there to get that feeling of, yes, he's above her. He views himself as above her. Nothing naturally went to that. We just went to that scene. That's what we got.
Bill Murray was in this movie.
For shockingly low time.
That's all I have to say about that. MODOK was annoying. That one was more forgivable. Like, I understand that MODOK's supposed to be this, ugly, hideous killing machine thing, and they try to, like, undercut that with, like, isn't it a little bit ridiculous that this is just a giant head with some tiny arms? And yes, it is a little bit ridiculous, but I think that choosing to undercut that humor in the movie was not a good choice. Because it then saps the humor out of it. Because I'm like, yes, I do agree. This is a ridiculous situation. Why are we doing it?
Right. A more advanced comedic route would be to keep him serious, but through certain storytelling techniques, kind of point at the ridiculousness of it without having to verbally just say that there's something wrong with it.
Perhaps.
Verbally, explicitly acknowledge it. There's ways to do that. Like, satirical movies do it all the time there's this ridiculousness component to it that feels very serious, but because it's a satire, you understand that they're actually mocking something in a way, right?
Yeah. And like I said, it's not like pointing it out is inherently bad. Just, I didn't like it. Though the line, it's not never too late to stop being a bleep was a good line. I just felt nothing and didn't understand why they were making this choice. A lot of this movie, it was just me feeling nothing and me being annoyed at the writing choices, to be honest. And I feel like I'm a broken record at this point. I enjoyed the character of Kang, and it actually made me a little bit want to go watch Loki or other things he's in, because I came out of this feeling like they got an actor to like really lift up the material. Because what Kang was doing, the character itself, as the story plays out, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, that was kind of nonsense. But I think that he was just like performing at such a high level that like he was making the nonsense just seem great. So I would want to see him in a different movie to like really have a good idea of how I feel about this character. But he's doing a good job.
I totally agree. The thing I wrote down for him was he brought the character to life. There wasn't necessarily, I think a normal actor would do a decent job of that character, but he really made the character interesting without giving too much knowledge or backstory or anything about what the character is. He just had this like very stunning, calm look about him for the most part, where it just, you don't really know what's in his mind, but you kind of know, but you don't really know.
In terms of like the tribe and the side characters, the movie keeps putting them there in ways, again, the movie thinks you care about the characters, but it has done such a terrible job of making me care about any of these things that they're just there. Like the side characters are showing up, some are dying, and I'm just like, oh, am I supposed to care? I don't, because that's the answer. I don't. Kang is doing things. What can and can't Kang do? I don't know. I don't know. I've never read him in the comics. I don't know what his power set is. It seems very confusing. Like sometimes he's telekinetic, sometimes he isn't. Next he's using blasts and swords. And I'm just like, okay, you do whatever you want to do, man. It seems to me like you have the power set to like wipe them all out, but you're choosing not to do that. But whatever. That's like so far down my list of problems with this movie right now. Just uninspired overall. The ants coming back was kind of funny. I liked it, but it was also like super predictable. Like when they went off in the beginning, right. I was like, oh, well, those are obviously going to come. Like not that I predicted exactly how they were going to come back, but I was like, well, those are going to come back and be relevant at some point. And they came back and we're all not like, oh, we've been around so many years. Which again, another like, how the hell does that work? Like what? The entire quantum realm is just like this giant plot convenience. They can just say this happened because the quantum realm. And it's like, okay, right? You can just, it's just this giant Deus Ex Machina machine where they can just say whatever they want. You need this thing to get out of the quantum realm. Oh, but now we fixed it and you can't. Oh no, but it's broken, but you still can't? I don't know. Oh, we got here and never, just like, what are we doing here? Like, can we have some rules? What are the rules? I don't care that I know about the rules. I just need to make sure that you guys know what the rules are and you're being consistent, and it doesn't seem like you are.
The characters I was most invested in the final fight were the ants. In all honesty, I was like, if they kill a single ant,
I will be
I'm standing up and leaving. But on the other hand, I was like, why aren't they killing more humans? Why aren't they killing more of these tribe people? Kill that laser face guy like faster, please, or in a more like gruesome way. Like
I'm with you there. When the ants were fighting, I was concerned. I was like, if any ant dies for this nonsense conflict that I don't care about, these people who went and had like their own civilization and advanced so far, that if any single one of them die for this nonsense, I will be annoyed.
And then everyone else, it's just, just no one dies really except Laserhead, and this is why I watch Attack on Titan and Game of Thrones.
I don't need a lot of death to for me. That's not a thing I need. I just need to care. I just need to care that my main characters were put in a dangerous situation. I just need to care, and I don't care.
I need more death when there's an actual battle.
I understand what you mean. Like, death adds stakes. Like, it feels like, oh, there was something happening here.
Like, I don't know. It's because there's a lot of battles in Marvel, and if you're not gonna have some death and stuff, then maybe choose something else in a battle. Choose something that is like raises the stakes through personal conflict.
Sounds like you don't want to watch a superhero movie, Sam.
No, Iron Man 1. There was
there was a battle at the end.
Ironmonger versus Iron Man, though. It wasn't a battle. It wasn't like what I mean by battle.
You're tired of like a giant CGI armies dying to each other and like not necessarily doing anything. Yeah. Okay, I get you.
I'm like make a more personalized battle. Like Kang has awesome powers, and you have 4 people who can turn into ants and wasps, and you have ants. Like make a more interesting battle with them fighting Kong alone or something, right? That. Explore the powers. Make those powers interesting. Rather than just a freaking another set of CGI men who were made in 10 minutes tops shooting lasers.
Like you almost want them to like
abyss
when they're like
because they're just stormtroopers with a different costume.
You sound very not upset. You almost want like them storyboarding these fight scenes to be like a core part of their writing process. They're like, here's like 2 or 3 fight scenes that we've really storyboarded that look very cool. Here's like 5 or 6 story points, and let's write around that as opposed to just and then a battle. Like it almost feels like they were just writing a story and they were like, and a battle happened here. And then in post they just figured out what the battle was, kind of thing. I mean, again, I know this is not how this works, but like that's what it feels like. It just feels like they weren't trying.
It does with certain recent Marvel movies,
Whatever you feel about The Last Jedi, love it or hate it, feel neutral about it. I have never heard a theater so silent as when they perform the hold on maneuver. They go to light speed and like, does it make sense? No, does it break all of stuff? Yeah. But like in that moment in the theater, everyone was like, oh my God, that was an amazing shot.
Right.
Like, I am so happy I experienced that in the theater. I felt literally none of that here.
Right.
Yeah. What was your least favorite scene?
I have to choose one. This is the worst part.
I'll give you time to ruminate on that.
You choose first.
Least favorite scene. Well, yeah, it is hard to choose. In terms of like what personally annoyed me the most was, like I said at the beginning, when the daughter was like, oh, what have you done? And all this stuff. And I was like, do not get me started movie. But in terms of just like movie things, I think it was a tribe thing. I was just, and then this is going to happen. And then this is going to happen. I was like, just get me out of here right now.
Right. So the beginning is rather boring to me for the first like 40, 50 minutes. But boring isn't the worst. The worst is probably the final fight. It actually hurts your soul, I find. When you're reaching the climax of the movie where it's supposed to be the most intense, and you see that you see the army, and you're like, oh gosh, here we go again, watching something I will close my eyes for this. Tell me when they get to punching each other.
Tell me when. Summarize the battle for me. Who won? What was your favorite scene?
There was one. There was one? I'm pretty sure there was one. You go first again.
The very end, when he's walking down like a repeat of the first scene, and he's like, and we defeated Kang. And that was a good thing, right? And the way he's like very not sure, like what did we do back there? And like, is it a good thing? I'm not. And he's like, don't think about it. That was a very funny scene, because I was like, yes, what did you guys actually do there? Because he was saying a lot of things. You can't stop me. Like, I need to do this. This is and you guys weren't doing a lot of listening to what he was saying. And it sounded like he was saying some important things. So, yeah, I did appreciate that.
Right. You know what? That was a good part. The flashback to Janet and Kang's, like, developing friendship in the past. Yeah. That was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Just a PSA. This movie is pushing some weird agendas. I think that if you save the world once, you're good. I don't think you need to do anything else. I think if you save the world once, and 20 years from now, someone's like, well, what have you done in the past 20 years? I'd say, I saved the world. And you were alive doing stuff because I saved the world.
You're welcome.
Get off my back.
He should have like a lifetime supply to like razors, McDonald's
coupons. Like a dollar Shave Club membership.
Yeah. McDonald's coupons at the very least, if not free food. I'm just saying.
Now we move on to the recommendation section. What interesting things are you watching or reading or consuming in some way? Or
Yellowstone.
Yellowstone. Give me a 15 seconds.
Well, as you know, I am a cowboy without cows.
Yes.
My personal history, I've lived in farm. You're really pushing it here. Okay, it's just about cowboys, okay? And cowboys killing other cowboys and whatnot. It's really good.
You really wasted that 15 seconds.
I had to give the origin to why I like. It's actually had a weird effect on me and Sarah. We started liking country music a little bit more.
I am in the middle of watching The Last of Us. I am pretty behind, but pretty good so far. What are we going to talk about next time?
So I think the next item, we do want to talk about things that we do like, okay? And we do not enjoy finding the next Ant-Man movie and just complaining about it all the time. I am very much interested in talking about Attack on Titan, where we've been talking about it, the big themes of it, as well as really centralizing and narrowing down on Eren Yeager and his character, who he is.
Eren Yeager, you just said.
Yeah. I'm very curious to extrapolate what the writer believes, because I feel like I'm really getting like a sense of, like, we watched Ant-Man. I don't know what the writers actually care about, what they really believe, but watching Attack on Titan, I really feel this is what I miss sometimes. Hollywood is always made by production now and multiple people, and that means that on average you're going to get a better movie. But when you get a story told by one person, you actually get a sense of like the ownership. You understand that there's something trying to be told to you. And I just feel so much of that when I watch Attack on Titan. I don't know about you.
I didn't start feeling that until we got to like the end of season 3 and then season 4. And then I was like, now with that knowledge and looking back, I'm like, wow, this story is saying something. But while I was watching the first 2 seasons or 3 seasons, I was just like, oh, it's cool, they're fighting monsters.
Yeah. Which we would love to talk about in our podcast.
No, well, tune in next episode.
The idea of story development and not just character development, but story development.
Yeah. Well, this is the end of the show, and then we gotta say that this episode of Couch Theater is brought to you by a humble sponsor,
Homespun Bread. If you are in Ottawa, go to your local bakery named Homespun Bread. Maybe she will offer you a discount on bread.
What's the address of this bakery, Sam?
I will not give away her home address. Just search her up on Instagram or Facebook. All right, Homespun Bread. And, if you mention Couch Theater, then maybe she'll offer, a couple $1 off on her.
Or maybe she won't. Maybe she'll even charge you more. Who can say? Use our offer code now, CouchTheater22, to get that 10% increase in your cost.
It's 23, bro.
Offer code is CouchTheater22. What do you want me to do about it?
Okay.
Can't just change the offer code, Sam. Yeah, well, that's your sponsor. I have a different sponsor. This is brought to you by Pesticide. If you're ever having a bug problem, get some Pesticide. Spray it up, get rid of the ants. There's so many, and they're so good, Weed Be Gone, that's for weeds, but it is a pretty harsh chemical and probably will kill even a person. So,
if Scott Lang had Pesticide, Khan could have taken over the world.
By stopping the ants? You would think, his super suit.
We are selling to the super villains of the world.
I just think that in his ship that was all decked out and stuff, super gear from the future and all this stuff, I just think he should have had some pesticide.
You know who would have had pesticide ready? Batman's utility belt.
Batman would have had that. He would have had that side. And on that note,
goodbye, people.
Goodbye.